Hey guys, welcome to today's video. So for today's video, we are doing the Deligracy Bad Build Challenge. So right from the get-go, you can see that my build does not have the build that it's originally on the gallery. The reason for that is just because I don't have the packs. But regardless, I did want to try out this challenge. So it's basically a shell challenge where you need to keep the outer walls where they are, and then you are also able to. Actually, now that I'm looking at this, I think I made it probably even smaller than it was supposed to be. But regardless, you're supposed to keep the walls where they are, and you can only add walls on the inside or some walls on the outside as well, but you can't demolish the walls that are already existing, basically. So what I did with that was that I basically cheated my way through it, I guess you could say, because I added spandrels. So by adding spandrels, you get more usable space with it still counting as a quote-unquote wall. But don't worry, the whole house is usable. I completely play tested everything. So by the time it's up on the gallery, you will be able to download this and play with it just like you would with any other house. Now, for the house itself, once I saw the stairs, I don't believe the stairs or the half walls needed to stay where they were, but the half walls wouldn't really matter if I would have kept them where they were or not, mainly because I end up covering it all with bushes. So regardless, you wouldn't have seen where the walls end. And right now you can also see that I'm really struggling with it. The Sims updated just that morning, so I'm not sure if it was part of that update, but basically with whatever update happened, anytime that I basically create a new room, it takes it as if it's a whole new room, I guess, and then it just removes the paint on everything. So there is quite a bit of back and forth with that, but I don't think there's much more of it anymore. So as you can see, I have a door downstairs and upstairs. Since I saw the stairs, I wanted to keep at least the shape that the stairs were. I do believe I moved them a bit. So these are what I end up calling the Deli Apartments. So there's going to be two different units, one downstairs and one upstairs. And my view on this was that, let's say it was someone that bought the building and then renovated it in a way that they would be able to make it apartments. And it's going to be very much a black and white palette, which is something that's at least very popular right now in Canada with new units that are being built. So with that, this bottom unit actually ends up being a lot more black and white than I originally intended to, but the upstairs unit has a lot more color. This is, I guess you could say, either the unit of the person that owns the building or just the unit that is going to cost the most, since it does have a bit more outdoor space and it does have the bigger bedroom. The other unit is going to be a two-bedroom unit. So I do end up changing some of the flooring, but it does end up being basically as black and white as you can see it. So I kind of struggled quite a bit with the layout on both units. I think the upstairs unit was even more difficult for the layout, but with this unit I really wanted to have a designated eating area and a designated TV area, I guess you could call it. So for the living room, I basically end up rearranging the whole kitchen. I thought it might be able to work out that way, but it didn't. It would have if I didn't want to put in a couch and a TV, but at the end of the day, I really did want to put it in. So I wanted to make it in a way that everything fits without it feeling overly cramped in this bottom unit. The upstairs unit is a bit more cramped, but I'll explain once we get to that point. So here I found a bookshelf and I decided to use that as a TV stand. And I put a wall back in there mainly to have a bit more separation, have it look a bit more natural, if you could even say that. So with that, I realized that I also didn't have a desk in this bottom unit, and I felt that it was needed if you want to have different sets of Sims living in here. So you could, for example, have your own Sim living downstairs and then have roommates upstairs if you have the university pack, and they can be students, they can be just workers, but point is that you can rent out the top part if you really wanted to do that. Now, you can see that I even put two mailboxes, and that's mainly because this is supposed to be two different units. I do realize that the second mailbox isn't going to work properly, but it does give it the illusion of being how an actual apartment would be. Now we're going to get started on the top unit, And this top unit, I fiddle a lot with the layout at first. And it was mainly because I was debating on how much wall I could leave without having to use the spandrels, or at the very least without having to use an archway. So this is basically the layout that it ends up being. I still fiddled around with it quite a bit, but I did want to have it be 2 bedrooms for sure. Mainly because this way you can have 2 bedrooms with a single bed. And again, if you're going to be renting this out, then it makes it all the more easier. Now here, I could have left a few more walls if I wanted to, again for that added challenge, but I felt that this was going to provide me the best layout, and this one is definitely more cramped. There is enough space to make everything completely usable though, and it's more cramped because I thought of it as student housing, and basically, at least where I live, there's a lot of colleges and universities in this area, and anytime that you see floor plans for units that are student rentals, they typically cram as much as they can in that little space. And it makes sense. They're trying to get as many people as they can into a unit, but that's basically the only way you see like 4 or 5 bedroom units. And we're talking about, in square footage, we're talking about somewhere between like 1,300 square feet. So that's a very little space to have that many bathrooms in. Or, I apologize, that many bedrooms in. I saw the bathroom there, and yes, the kitchen appliances and the bathrooms are gonna look a lot more fancy than I guess what a student could afford. But my view of it was that these students probably spent a lot of money in rent to try to get one of these newer places instead of one of the bigger, more rundown places. And then you're gonna see that after that, they're gonna end up having like a whole bunch of, I think there's at least a couple of the crates in there, but there's at least one crate in there. And the furniture is very mismatchy. For example, you can see that long table that they're both using kind of as the workspace. So again, my view of it was maybe they went to like IKEA and secondhand stores and stuff like that and just bought like some cheap furniture where they could. These are very busy students. They're very, that little notebook you can see that actually has a stain on it and everything. So they're working hard. But that was my view of it with them being students. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way. You can always change whatever it is that you want in these units. But even the dressers, I tried to choose like the cheapest ones since they have a bit of like dings and nicks here and there. Or this other dresser in the other room that kind of looks like something you would get at a Walmart or an IKEA or something. So again, it was just basically a lot of mismatching, which when you're a student, that's basically all you can afford. You get what you can and you run along with it. Now I wanted to put some mirrors as well, but I didn't really have the space for it here, so the only mirror upstairs is the one in the bathroom. And that was mainly because it didn't fit, and the ones that would be on the walls I felt like wouldn't really make sense in this type of student housing. And then this is where they made a mess out of the walls. So again, this is the way I viewed it as, but it's not necessarily what they are. One of them is more of the musician type, they have a guitar, and the other one is more the artsy type. And even outside, there's a woodworking table. So there's going to be a bit of everything in that unit, mainly because who knows what type of students are going in there, but that is their personality. Now, the bottom one is a lot more clean. I did add a couple different wall colorings and stuff, but everything is very black and white, as I mentioned before. Now, I think there's still quite a bit to go, actually. I was going to say that we're coming up to the end of it, but there's actually a lot more landscaping going on. But here with the landscaping, I actually cut out a lot of it just because it's a lot of just rearranging some bushes to make it look more like that was the way it was supposed to look, for example. So we're going to wrap it up and we're going to go into screenshots real soon. So I just want to say thank you so much for watching like always. I hope you have a great weekend and I hope to see you next week. Have a good one.